ever wish your day wasn't dictated by your health? Are you tired of being tired all the time, or is pain holding you back from enjoying your time with your family? Would you like to manage your symptoms holistically, but you just don't know where to begin? I am so excited that you're here. This podcast will help you understand how natural remedies work so you can relieve your symptoms and live a fuller life. My name is Penny. I'm an occupational therapist, past pharmaceutical rep, a mom, and a wife with a strong faith, and for 25 years, I battled through debilitating Crohn's disease. I took all the medicine and did all the surgeries that stole so much time with my family, but never truly healed me. I finally realized if I was going to survive this disease, I needed to open my stubborn eyes to alternative solutions. I researched how perfectly our bodies work with plants and a lifestyle that made my health less of a burden to my family and aligned so beautifully with my faith and my medical training. If you're ready to reclaim your life with holistic options that are easy to implement as a busy mom and provide relief that lasts, this is the podcast for you. Hello there, and welcome back to the Becoming Natural podcast. This is Penny, your host, and I am so happy that you are here this week. This is episode 34, Valuable Sunscreen Safety You Need to Know to Protect and Support Your Health. So this was a really fun podcast for me. A couple years ago, I started having an aha moment about sunscreen and what's in sunscreen. And is sunscreen actually helping us, or is sunscreen harming us? Are the chemicals in sunscreen increasing our chance of skin cancers or protecting us from skin cancer? So I dug into the long history of sunscreen and more recent uses with chemicals and found myself taking a few brief side rabbit holes that we will most definitely circle back to in the future. But the sun is our focus today, with a little bit of dirt on top and a teaser for weeks to come. But first, I'm going to read a review from T.D. Nichols. You have, very interesting and much needed information. You have captured my attention, and I'm looking forward to learning more. My son has EOE. For those of y'all who don't know, that's eosinophilic esophagitis within your throat with some allergies, and so many food allergies that he can barely find things he can eat without getting sick. Only steroids help him, but he can't stay on those all the time. My mom suffers with chronic pain, so I'm following in hopes of learning more from your wisdom and personal journey. I know this is going to be amazing as you follow Jesus in your efforts to help others. Thank you so much. That is the kindest review. I really appreciate it. I hope that anything that we have learned so far together that helps you and your son and your mom and their struggles. It's no fun when we're all sick. There's a common denominator. I just know it. So let the record show that I am from the generation that baked in the sun with my Bain de Soleil that was a whopping SPF of 4. It was colored orange, and probably that orange dyed my skin orange as I baked the chemicals into my body after laying in the sun for hours upon hours. Or maybe even worse, I used iodine with baby oil to make sure that I maximized that sun exposure. I even used that foil towel, anybody with me on that, that was supposed to attract the sun so I could get even darker, as though what I was getting already wasn't enough. The more tan, the better, said my 16-year-old self. But my skin is naturally, it receives the sun easily, and rarely, if ever, did I burn as a child, despite being outside in the sun all the time, be at the pool, playing outside. And as I got older, I spent my entire summers between the pool and the tennis court all day long, never, ever wearing any kind of sun protection. If anything, I used something like I mentioned before, to attract the sun, not to protect me from the sun, so that I could be as brown and dark as I could possibly get. And I could get dark. I remember as a little girl, my very pale skin and sensitive to the sun dad telling me I was brown as a bagel. I didn't even know what a bagel was. In my mind, I thought he was saying beagle. So I had no idea, but I knew beagles had brown spots. And then I have my sister who is redheaded and fair-skinned. As an adult, would come to our family lake house with her bag of sunscreens, using 50 for her face, 30 for her shoulders, 15 for her arms and legs, and repeat. And I probably teased her too much, and I'm so sorry. But I never cared because I didn't think I had to. My skin received the sun well. So spending more time inside as an adult, I found that I do have to limit my first time in the sun so I don't get red. But after that first sun, I'm home free. I can remember my dermatologist in high school saying we needed sunscreen anytime we went in the daylight. And his example was, are you in the sun when you walk from my door to your car? I thought It was a little bit over the top when he was saying that, but he wasn't exactly wrong. So I am sure my appointment was in July, and he was probably a witness to my overly sunned skin, trying to teach me to take better care of my skin, but I didn't catch on at all at that time. It wasn't until recent years that I started to be concerned with protecting my skin from aging and wrinkles because, I'll be honest, I've started noticing signs of my skin aging. And it's almost like our bodies have this melanin tank because I can't get nearly as dark as I did in my teens. I think I used up my entire tank of brown. But I started spraying sunscreen on when I was on the tennis court or wearing lotion on my face with SPF. I do that. I've done that for a long time. For as long as I could tolerate the laying out at the pool. I certainly banked my time as a teen because I cannot stand to sit in the sun now without a little bit of shade. I go crazy, but I spray myself regularly with sunscreen when I feel my skin burning, as most people do. And one day I looked at the long list of ingredients and wondered why sunscreen is such a big business. Do we really need it, or am I just contributing to my own demise by adding sunscreen? Of course, because I'm cynical, Are the ingredients in sunscreen actually bad? Or are we putting things on our body? Or are we ingesting things that are attracting the sun more than if we didn't use those things? Seems like everyone I knew went to the same dermatologist in high school. And at that time, we all used Retin-A on our faces, except there were huge warnings not to get in the sun while using it without sunscreen or not even getting in the sun at all. But I had one dear friend who missed that memo. And when we went snow skiing, he didn't wear any sunscreen and was using Retin-A, and oh my gosh, how his face burned so terribly. His face swelled up so bad. So I can't help but wonder, are we adding things to our body to make us more sensitive to the sun, more than even something topical? And is the sun really all that bad? So today we're going to dig into all of it, and let's get some answers to these questions. So first and foremost, let's start with the fact that the sun is actually good for you. There is a divine reason nature restores us. It was made to do so. John 8:12 in the Bible says, just as sunlight gives life and aligns our body's rhythms, Jesus is called the light of the world. Without light, we wither physically and spiritually. We are designed to need light, both physically and spiritually. And you can say that about plants too. Light is life-giving and absolutely required for something to grow. So the good things that the sun provides us is vitamin D production, and just 10 to 15 minutes of sun are like on our arms and our face a few times a week. That will help your body to make vitamin D, which supports our immune health, our mood, and our bone strength. We know that people say they get more depressed in Seattle because they don't see the sun very many days of the year. It's a mood booster. Sunlight helps to regulate our serotonin levels, which improves our mood and helps reduce anxiety. The sun helps us get better sleep. If you listened last week about sleep, morning sun exposure helps reset our circadian rhythm, improving our melatonin production at night. Melatonin is what helps us sleep. And when we talked about that last episode, we talked about how it reset our clock with the first light in the morning. The sun also may reduce inflammation. Some studies suggest regular brief sun exposure can help calm autoimmune inflammation. How about that? And guess what? We actually need the sun in our eyes without sunglasses. Did you know your eyes help set your entire body clock? Getting natural light, especially in the morning, directly into your eyes without those sunglasses or windows blocking the sun does powerful things for your body. It regulates your circadian rhythm. Bright morning light helps your brain know it's daytime, which boosts your alertness and now helps you sleep better at night, just like we said before. It boosts your mood. The sunlight triggers the release of that serotonin, your natural feel-good hormone, and it's important that you get this sunlight into your eyes, supporting our hormone balance. Your eyes signal to the brain to adjust your cortisol, your melatonin, and even reproductive hormones. And it helps you focus better. Morning sun exposure has been linked to better attention and behavior in school-age kids. We just have to be smart. Never stare directly at the sun, of course. Just be outside in the morning in the natural light, especially with the first 1 to 2 hours of waking. I think that we discussed last week about if you have an animal or you're sitting outside with your coffee, just to walk in the grass and get in the sun for your morning routine when you wake up. So skip the sunglasses for at least 10 to 15 minutes in the morning to allow that sunlight into your eyes. Letting your eyes take in the early morning light can help you and your kids sleep better, feel better, and function better. And it's free, natural, and it only takes a few minutes each day. Surely God didn't create the sun to harm us, right? The sun is necessary for plants and foods to grow. It's a vital part of our life and plant and foods life. So how can it be harmful for us? According to my research, it's purportedly all about balance. Too little sun is vitamin D deficiency, seasonal depression, sluggish sleep cycles, and then too much unprotected sun, increased risk of skin cancer, premature aging, and sunburn. So if you're a mom, if you're worried about your kids and you're worried about the sun, let them play outside in the early morning or the late evening, or the late day sun without sunscreen to get the benefits of the sun. But then if it's midday, 10 to 3, use some sort of sunscreen, which we are going to discuss, that is safe and effective for your kiddos. I remember when my kids were little, they would wake up at the crack of dawn and we had a pool and they wanted to go to the pool immediately. And it was the perfect schedule because we would get up, go to the pool, play till about 10 o'clock in the morning, and then they're tired. And we'd come in for the heat of the day and do indoor things or run errands, and then back to the pool at night when Daddy got home from work. And it was just the perfect cycle. And it was obviously quite healthy for them. So I was doing something right and I didn't even know it. But you can enjoy the sun safely. Mindful exposure is what supports your wellness, and smart protection prevents harm. The more I went deep into the sun, on top of what we learned about sleep and our circadian rhythm from last week, and all the talk about grounding, I started to wonder if that feel-good sun on your face, the goodness of putting your hands in the dirt, your bare feet on the ground, is that more than just a feel-good moment? Like for me, that reminds me of childhood, playing outside with my friends, or just a coolness to the touch of the grass? Or is there a legitimate physiological effect on our bodies when we have that sun in our face and we touch the grass or we stick our hands in the dirt? And guess what? It is more than just a vibe. It actually is physiology, and it's proven. Sunshine in the brain. Natural sunlight stimulates the pineal gland through the eyes, even when your eyelids are closed, which helps regulate our circadian rhythm and our melatonin production. So it also triggers the release of serotonin, which I know I've said that 3 times, but it's vital to a feel-good brain chemical that is tied to happiness and to calm. So important for our moods to get the sun and get it in our eyes. Light exposure also boosts dopamine, which can enhance and motivate and help with your focus. The other thing, where we'll come back around to, but the grounding and the earthing, when I was talking about walking on the ground early in the morning in the sun, studies show direct skin contact with the soil, sand, or grass can reduce inflammation in our body. It can lower your cortisol, or your stress hormone. It can improve your heart rate. The theory is basically the earth carries a negative charge that neutralizes those free radicals. We learned about free radicals a few weeks ago in your body. And there are clinical studies that show grounded individuals sleep better, heal faster, and feel calmer. I really look forward to diving into that one. The next one I mentioned, that's just a brief overview, is touching the soil. Being a therapist, I've seen therapy where they use dirt for people to touch the soil. And I used to think, oh, it's just because they like to work in the garden. But soil actually contains Mycobacterium, I'm going to say vaccae, V-A-C-C-A-E, a naturally occurring bacteria that when it is inhaled, it actually activates serotonin-producing neurons. A 2007 study found it had antidepressant-like effects on mice. This is why gardening, like I said, is used in trauma therapy, and why kids get calmer playing in the dirt. And I am an eat dirt kind of a mom. I would let my kids go outside and play. I'm like, whatever's in that dirt, I'm sure it's good for you. So I was never too sanitary with my kids when it came to dirt. But your feel-good moments outside are not just emotional. They are physiological, whether it's morning light in your eyes, dirt under your nails, or toes in the grass. Your body knows it's healing. This is just so amazing to me, and I look forward to going into more depth with the ground and the soil. But today we are back to focusing on the sun. So what happens if we get too much sun? We get a sunburn, right? So the quick science about a sunburn is that UVB rays are the burning rays, and they damage the top layers of your skin. Your immune system sends extra blood to the area to repair it, which causes redness and warmth. The damaged skin cells may swell, aka inflammation, or blister as part of the inflammatory process. Eventually, your body tries to shed that damaged skin, which is why you peel a few days later. And always catching that was an inflammatory response. Everything begins with inflammation. A sunburn is simply the inflammation of the skin trying to heal or protect itself when it knows it needs repair from damage. So if your skin turns pink or feels warm without touching it, you're already burning. That's your sign to get in the shade, reapply safe and effective sunscreen, or cover up. Just physically cover up with a sun shirt. A sunburn isn't just uncomfortable. It truly is skin damage, but it's totally preventable with just a little bit of planning and protection. So let's address sunscreen. Humans have always tried to protect themselves from the sun, and I went on a deep dive as to when did we start wearing sunscreen. But ancient Egyptians used rice bran and jasmine oil. Greek and Indian cultures used olive oil and zinc pastes. Many cultures in the 16th and 17th centuries wanted pale skin. European aristocratic women would even wear face masks called vizards, visards, to block the sun, which was an effective but awkward fashion statement, I'm sure, to keep that porcelain-like skin. Tanning didn't become trendy until around the 1920s, thanks to Coco Chanel, in part, being incredibly bronzed in her picture, which for the first time created a demand for suntan lotions to promote tan skin rather than protecting our skin from the sun. And this sparked early chemical sunscreens to be developed in Europe. So by the 1940s, there was a pharmacist in Florida who developed a thick red veterinary petrolatum jelly for U.S. soldiers in World War II to prevent sunburn. And after the war in 1944, he refined it into what we now know as Coppertone. Oh my gosh, the smell of Coppertone. That was so good to me. I'm sure it was completely harmful and toxic, but I love that smell. It was one of the very first popular consumer sunscreens. And just a little fun fact, that original formula was nicknamed Red Vet Pet, literally red petroleum jelly. So moving on to the 70s, sunscreen went totally mainstream, and they invented the terminology or the standardization process called sun protection factor, SPF. And I've heard varying opinions on those levels myself. Some dermatologists saying you can't get more than 30 SPF prevention, so don't pay for the 50, while others believe entirely in the hierarchy of the SPF system, and the higher, the better. You be the judge for yourself. But bottom line, humans have always sought protection from the sun or the heat. Ancient oils and pastes set the stage for modern sunscreen, and knowing this history reminds us that while the products have evolved from rice bran and zinc paste to high SPF lotions, the goal remains the same, that we want to shield our skin from burning. So sun protection isn't new. We've just gotten better at it. Maybe better in air quotes. Knowing where it came from helps us to choose where we want to go next. So the next question is, does sunscreen have harmful ingredients and why? So there are some conventional sunscreen chemicals that some people worry about. And we'll break down which ingredients have raised health or environmental red flags, and what the research actually says, and how to read those intimidating, 26-letter ingredient labels and actually know what you're reading. The goal is to empower you to avoid the problem ingredients if you choose, without completely abandoning your protection from the sun for your skin. So the first two red flag warnings are oxybenzone. That's oxybenzone. It is a common UVB absorber. And octinoxate, octinoxate, another UV filter. And they are two ingredients to be wary of. First, there's a big new thing now lately. When we were in Hawaii, they were talking about it, but coral reefs apparently can be harmed by certain sunscreen chemicals like these, leading places like Hawaii and Australia to ban those ingredients in sunscreens, because scientists have said these compounds have potential risks for damaging coral reefs. Even a tiny amount causes coral bleaching, and it harms the coral DNA and its development. So now we have a term called reef-safe sunscreen, usually indicating it's a mineral formula that's free of those chemicals. There are also concerns with these chemicals for health reasons. People worry about certain sunscreen chemicals is that they can penetrate your skin. It enters your bloodstream. And in fact, the FDA ran studies and found that several common sunscreen active ingredients, oxybenzone, octinoxate, plus octocrylene, and homosalate, were detectable in users' blood and even breast milk and urine after regular application. That's according to the EWG.org, which is a great resource. Oxybenzone in particular has been under scrutiny as a potential endocrine disruptor, meaning it might mimic or interfere with our hormones. Some animal studies suggested that oxybenzone, also called benzophenone 3, which is benzophenone, it could affect estrogen or cause other hormonal changes. So in 2021, the FDA reviewed 16 different sunscreen ingredients. It could only classify only two, which were zinc oxide and titanium oxide, as definitively. There's a rating system. It's called GRASE, generally regarded as safe and effective. That's also according to the EWG. So GRACE. The others, including all the major chemical filters, were flagged as not enough safety data to confirm safe. And just being the cynic that I am, is if there's not enough safety data in the US, I feel as though probably should steer clear of those items. So notable ingredients to watch for. And you know what? I'll link this up in the show notes somehow, but it's called the Dirty Dozen. These chemicals are under review, which include oxybenzone, octinoxate, octocrylene, avobenzone, homosalate, octisalate, insulizole, meridimate. Are you having fun yet? Patamate O, dioxybenzone, sinoxate, and salicylic. Out of these, oxybenzone and octinoxate are most famous due to the reef issue and the higher absorption issues that we have with our bodies. Homosalate and octocrylene have also raised concerns, and the EU found that they weren't safe at the maximum levels used in the US. So octocrylene can degrade into potential carcinogens, which is benzophenone over time, which prompted some alarm in some studies, of course. Avobenzone is the main UVA absorber used in many U.S. sunscreens, can break down in the sun as well, and there's evidence that it may have mild hormone disruption activity. So those were a lot of big words, and I will list those out. I'll find a way to link those up in the show notes, because those are the ingredients when you're looking at your sunscreen you want to avoid. And remember that I am on a personal mission to eliminate all hormone disruptors in my life in an attempt to get my thyroid fully functioning again. So potential hormone disruptor is an automatic no for me. And I can tell you that I can't wait for my thyroid to kick in, but I am well on my way. My thyroid is actually improving all naturally by all the things that I've been doing and I share with y'all. So dermatologists also point that there are skin allergies that are associated with these chemicals. PABA, you know how you see things that say PABA-free? I say PABA. It stands for para-aminobenzoic acid. It was also an older ingredient that caused allergic reaction and largely phased out in the 80s. So that's why you see PABA-free on a lot of products. But bottom line, these are chemicals. So if you have sensitive skin or you have babies and you're looking for safe sunscreens, typically you're going to be aiming for the mineral sunscreens versus the chemical. But just the sound of mineral sounds better than chemical, right? The bottom line is we have a precautionary concern that if we're going to apply these chemicals every day to a large portion of our skin, which is our largest organ, and we do it not just once or twice. I mean, we do this multiple times a day if we're out in the sun on ourselves and our kids, and then it becomes circulating throughout our bodies. We'd like to be sure they're safe. And when we hear these studies that say, there's question marks or it doesn't hit a certain level, well, that's one time of spraying it on your body. How many times do we refresh our sunscreen during the day if we're in the pool and getting in and out of the water? So there's just so many concerns that revolve around these question marks around these chemicals that are in sunscreens that are doing the exact opposite of what we want sunscreen to do for us. So what do? The FDA says only zinc oxide and titanium oxide are safe and effective. Every single other product says there's not enough data to confirm the safety. So how do we read the labels? There's a quick guide to reading your labels. Sunscreen labels can look like, a chemistry exam, but you can ignore most of it and head straight to the active ingredients. That's what I always do. And there it will list the UV filters that's used. If you see only zinc oxide or titanium dioxide, you've got pretty much a mineral sunscreen, often marketed for, like I said, for babies or sensitive skin or reef-safe. That's also a big clue. If you see all those other names I listed above, those are chemical filters, but don't be fooled because there are some products that of course, want to trick you, and they have mixed both mineral and chemical, which is called a hybrid sunscreen. So make sure that they are purely zinc oxide or titanium dioxide. Also look for broad spectrum on the label. This means that it has passed tests for both UVA and UVB protection, which is important for full coverage. The SPF number tells you roughly how much longer you can stay in the sun without burning. So all that it is a measure of length of time without having to reapply your sunscreen. So just remember that 0 sunscreens block 100% of the sun, and SPF does not tell you about UVA, only UVB. So look for zinc oxide, titanium dioxide, you're good. Completely avoid oxybenzone. Look for broad spectrum, more than SPF of 30. Look for reef-safe. You don't have to memorize every single scary ingredient list. Just choose mineral sunscreens and completely skip the oxybenzone. That's a great place to start. But what are natural sunscreen alternatives? So let's talk about natural and what works and what doesn't. Mineral blockers, just like I said above, zinc oxide, titanium dioxide, these are the mineral rock stars of natural sunscreen. Zinc oxide is the thick white cream we always think of lifeguards using to wear on our noses, and titanium dioxide are compounds that physically block UV rays. They sit on top of the skin, reflecting and scattering the UV rays, and provide a broad spectrum protection. They're extremely safe and effective, and they're not really absorbed much into the skin. The FDA even classifies zinc oxide and titanium dioxide as the only 2 sunscreen ingredients that are, what I said before, GRACE, G-R-A-S-E, generally recognized as safe and effective. They're also reef-friendly and great for sensitive skin and babies, as I said before. The cons, traditional formulas that they make leave, your face. If you put it all over your face, you're like, bright white. That's a great way to get the porcelain look. But newer sunscreens can use smaller particle technology or tinting to reduce that chalky look. And if you want a natural sunscreen, that zinc or titanium on the label will give you excellent protection without the questionable chemicals. That is the gold standard. So sometimes people will say, what about plant oils and butters? Coconut oil, shea butter, raspberry seed oil, these are all really nice moisturizers, but they're not true sunscreens. When it came down to it, they're like SPF is 2, 3, and 4. I think it said coconut oil was maximum 7 SPF. So they're great for moisturizing after you get out of the sun, probably really good with, soothing the skin and helping with inflammation. But stating the obvious, the most natural of all, wearing long sleeve rash guards, wearing a hat, staying in the shade. There are pastes like mud and clays that act as a true physical barrier to the skin, but less convenient or perhaps less aesthetically pleasing to walk around with clay all over your face. But if you should be stranded on a deserted island with no sunscreen, it is not such a bad idea. So mineral sunscreens are your safest, most effective natural option. Oils and butters moisturize, but they skip the SPF. There are plenty of great brands now that use only minerals and still rub in clear. So I'll be sure I leave a list of the good ones that you can link up to in the blog notes. And those are all going to be based from the EWG website, the Environmental Working Group, and they release a yearly safe sunscreen guide. So let's go to the fourth question that I had is, do we have ingested factors like things in our diet or supplements, things that make us sensitive to the sun? And it might surprise you, but what we put in our bodies can influence how our skin reacts to the sun. Just like I said about the topical skin from our dermatologist. But foods that might protect your skin that are, of course, high in antioxidants, they raise your resistance to UV damage. Tomatoes are packed with lycopene, a red antioxidant pigment. In a study, people who ate tomato paste daily for 10 weeks were about 40% less likely to get sunburned. Who knew? Tomato paste. That also might cause a little bit of indigestion. But the lycopene accumulated in their skin and helped quench the free radicals from the UV rays. Similarly, high doses of beta-carotene, like orange pigment in carrots and sweet potatoes, have been shown to provide a decent protection against sunburn when taken for long periods of time, not just on the spot. It's something you need to take long over time. So basically the idea is getting that rainbow of food. You can eat all the different colored foods, maybe go heavy on the orange foods whenever it's summertime, and that will help you to be a natural skin protection. I actually had a friend that I complimented how beautiful her skin looked. She looked so bronze, and she said, oh girl, she's like, I haven't been in the sun in 3 years. She said, I just eat a whole lot of sweet potatoes and carrots and beta carotene, and it naturally tanned her skin, which makes sense that naturally helps protect her skin from the sun. So it was really interesting. I'd like to try it. Just don't love carrots. I got to try that one. So maybe I need a juice with carrots. But Hydration also helps. Just your overall diet. Healthy skin is well-hydrated skin. So while you're drinking water doesn't make you sunproof, dehydration can make your skin more prone to damage. Some people believe eating omega-3 fatty acids from fish oil and flaxseed might help reduce the UV-induced inflammation. Herbs and supplements that increase your sensitivity is on the flip side. So be aware that certain things that you ingest make you more sensitive to the sun, called photosensitivity. A prime example is St. John's wort, an herbal supplement that often is used for mood, and it contains a compound which can cause skin to react more to the UV light. So people on St. John's wort can get sunburns or rashes more easily. Even their eyes can be more susceptible to UV damage. So wear good sunglasses is a must if you're taking St. John's wort. Citrus fruits have also come under the microscope. Research has found that people who consume a lot of citrus, especially grapefruit or orange juice, have a higher incidence of melanoma. Isn't that crazy? One study noted that 63% increased risk of melanoma in folks who had more than 2 servings of citrus daily. The suspected culprit is a compound called, I'm going to spell it for you, furocomarins, furocoumarins. And it's in citrus, and it can make your skin more vulnerable to the UV damage, they believe. So that doesn't mean you have to quit drinking orange juice or drinking citrus. It just has so many health benefits, but you just want to be wary, knowing that citrus could increase those risks, and just make sure that you protect your skin from the sun. So the key takeaway about food and ingesting a healthy diet can indeed give your skin a bit of backup in dealing with the sun. Consider it your nutritional armor, per se, and it works quietly in the background. Certain antioxidants, like we talked about with lycopene from tomatoes, or polyphenols that come from green tea that we've discussed in the past, have shown to reduce sun damage in many studies. One of them listed in the NIH, I'll link up. However, these are modest gains, so you should look at it more as something that is to be used in tandem with other ways of protecting your skin. Ultimately, food is never the full shield. It needs to be a complement, not a replacement for your good sun habits. So you can support your skin from the inside out by avoiding things that make you photosensitive and increasing things that help you to protect your body from the sun. But that's just one part of it. If you have to get a sunburn, or you did get a sunburn because you didn't properly take care of your skin, what do? So we know that it's inflammation, right? We know that when the skin is burned, there is an inflammatory response. So we want to cool it and calm it first. Apply a cool compress, take a lukewarm bath, not a cold bath. You can use baking soda in that, or colloidal oatmeal, colloidal being silver. Avoid hot showers or tight clothing that may further irritate the skin. We know how horrible it feels when you get in a hot bath and you have sunburned skin. Ouch. But natural soothers can be aloe vera. That's really anti-inflammatory. Make sure that it's pure aloe vera, even straight from the plant. If you grow an aloe vera plant, you do not want alcohol added, because that could be painful, but that will help cool and hydrate the skin. Coconut oil or shea butter. Like I said above, it can help with the initial heat fading, and it nourishes the dry skin. Witch hazel, something I really want to dive into, but it has anti-inflammatory properties and can gently reduce the redness slowly and take care of your skin. What else is a huge anti-inflammatory? Of course, I can't go without saying CBD, CBG, castor oil, all things that we have discussed before. In fact, I use a cream on my skin called Reduce Cream that has CBG in it, and I used it in the first sun of the year. I would say last year I was watching a lacrosse tournament, and it was a cloudy day, worst case scenario, because it was the first time I was in the sun, and I sat there all day long. It was the kind of burn that I knew was going to peel. I had the perfectly stripes of red on my shoulders, and I started putting that reduced pain cream on 1 to 2 times a day, and I kid you not, I never ever peeled. The perfect line of red that usually blurs and begins to peel as it tans remained perfect and brown. In fact, I took pictures, and I will post those in the blog to show you the amazing difference and how I never peeled. So go over to my website and look in the podcast 34 to check those pictures out. It really surprised me, actually. So your inside support, in addition to any of those supplements, drink water, lots and lots of water. Sunburn draws fluid to the skin, which is why you blister, and that can in itself just dehydrate you. So takeaway is that sunburn is inflammation, and your body needs rest, hydration, and gentle care to heal. Think cool, calm, and nourish. So you want to choose the sun, but choose the time wisely until your skin is acclimated to the sun. You can choose a physical barrier like a hat or a long sleeve shirt, or find good shade. And if you really want to do it, you can make your own mask of mud or clay, and that is a sure physical protection from your skin. Choose a mineral-based sunscreen that is based with zinc or titanium oxide as the active ingredient. Avoid completely oxybenzone and octinoxate. Load up on your colorful veggies and berries for internal skin support. Check your meds and your supplements. Meds are biggies for sun sensitivity or side effects, and avoid those when you have prolonged exposure to the sun, especially if you can anticipate that coming. But I wanted to add in here that we were talking earlier about the earth as a source of healing, but that God formed man from the dust, Genesis 2:7. So our connection to the earth is sacred and foundational because we were formed from the dust based on Genesis. And so that is why we are so connected with the grounding and the soil and the sun. So Jesus walked barefoot and he walked on the ground. He touched the soil. He healed people outdoors. So when we walk barefoot or connect to creation through the sun or through the dirt or through the sand, we are reminded of his footsteps, his grounding, his presence, and healing. Creation is not just a backdrop. It's a blessing, a complete blessing. God made light. He made the soil. He made the sky, and he made it to nourish us. Just like plants, I always take it back to the plant. For everything that we believe and understand about plants is for us as well. So that light and soil and the sun nourishing us for our body and for our soul, because it gives us those good feelings, those dopamine hits. It feels so good because it's pointing us back to the one who created us, back to the beginning of how we were created from the earth. Psalm 113:3 says, "From the rising of the sun to its setting, the name of the Lord is to be praised." The same sun that nourishes our bodies was created to remind us of God's faithfulness. Every sunrise is a fresh invitation to rise, receive his light, and reflect his glory. Just think how beautiful sunrises and sunsets are. We all know how glorious those are. Let's not take the sunlight for granted. Without it, we couldn't see a thing. The sun is here for a reason, but it is also to be respected. Consider any chemical that we didn't even discuss here that you might ingest or breathe in or put on your body. Typically, that might increase your sensitivity to the sun. But for you who revere my name, the sun of righteousness will rise with healing in its rays. Malachi 4:2. So the sun is healing in its rays because the Bible tells us it is. So just as the sun rises to nourish and heal the earth, so does Christ rise in our lives with healing in his light. He is not only our protector, but our restorer, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. So next time you feel that warmth of the sun and how good it feels to be outside, especially in the spring, let it remind you that he is near and his light brings healing, and that is the sun. So I'm going to attach a cheat sheet in the blog notes of the different EWG verified sunscreens that we discussed. I will also list all of those 15 no-way chemicals you want to avoid because there's no way that you can remember those. But I hope that as we're heading into the sunscreen season, that this helped you make some decisions about how to protect your son, how to protect your children, and stay healthy and keep the sun in moderation. The sun is good for us. It's just a matter of knowing how to protect ourselves in the long term and how to slowly integrate into the sun and the hours of the day that are the best in order for us to absorb the sun into our eyes and into our body for a complete wellness in our entire body to support our entire health. I hope you have a great day. Thank you so much for tuning in today. If you've enjoyed today's episode, hit that follow button, leave a 5-star review if you're so willing, and help spread the message of Becoming Natural by sharing it with a friend. Check out the resources in the show notes and join the email list to stay on top of all the latest and greatest happenings at Becoming Natural as we roll out exciting new things while we grow. Until next time, take those baby steps to a more natural life and always give yourself grace. Progress, not perfection, is the goal. See you next week.